Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Young. I'm the owner and founder of Adaptive Perspective and the Adaptive Perspective social media platforms, and I am back to talk about our stock market investment strategy using closed-end funds. There we go. Um, to get the normal disclaimers out of the way, it's an unedited video. You already heard me make a mistake. So it's an unedited video. Who knows what else you'll hear in the background as I film these in my house. I'm not a financial advisor. I am a strategist, and I don't speak like the herd. I walk in limited company, and sometimes I walk alone. I know I make long videos, and I make longer videos. It's not my goal to make super long videos, but I'll be honest that this one will probably be longer than the last couple weeks because it's got a ton of info. So as I go through these topics, as I cover both the stock market and everything else, uh, my ultimate goal is to help you outperform the rest of everybody else and that giant group of investors I call the herd. So the people that really swing the market, that really don't know what they're doing and paying attention to everybody else, the uninformed herd really swings the market. And my hope is to help you outperform that group. I mean, our goal is to either, honestly, our ideal goal would be to retire on dividends, but that takes a chunk of a chunk of change. So if we can supplement or completely fund our retirement on dividends, that's the goal. And if that's brand new info to you, or maybe just a completely foreign concept, then I hope I can give you some insight, and I hope I can change your mind a little bit, or at least give you some information to consider on how living off dividends is a lot better than selling your equity or selling what you hope to be equity. So if you would like to help me get this message out, if you've watched my videos before, thank you. If you're brand new, welcome. And if you've never seen this before, it just popped on your timeline, give me a chance. And if it sounds reasonable or sounds amazing for that matter, and you want to help me spread the word on how we can beat the traditional stock market advice and quite honestly just do a lot better than the herd and the traditional advice, help me hack YouTube and spread the word. Comment on my videos. The more comments, the better. Tell me what you're investing in. Ask me about closed-end funds. Really, whatever you want to talk about. Share the videos. Share them with your friends. Share them on your timeline. Share them wherever, and help spread the word that there is a much better way to invest than the traditional stock market advice. And then the other part is like the videos. Positive feedback helps. Those three things coupled together, comments, shares, and likes, that overall positive messaging tells the YouTube algorithm to push the videos out in front of more people. And on my end, I'll be incredibly honest, or maybe crazily transparent. I mean, the goal of a channel is to be seen, but at the same time, I want to help people. And yes, I want to be seen, and yes, I want more followers, and yes, I want more likes. I mean, that's the whole point of having a channel. But at the same time, you could pick any channel on YouTube, and it has that inherent need, right? You want followers, and you want likes, and you want people to see your stuff. So if we take all of that out, right, and put it on the side of things, because it's an important metric, but at the same time, it's on the side. The whole point of this is to help people. It's my ability to reason out what we're picking in the stock market, but it's also to show you and everyone else that there's a better way than the traditional investment plan. There's a much better way than generating or maybe socking away money into the stock market to then sell it off to fund your retirement. If you're going to sock away, or if you're going to put $1 million into the market, which is really not most people, and then slowly sell that off, that just sounds not ideal. Like if you could keep the million and live off dividends, and not that crappy like 1.2% dividend you would get in the S&P 500, not that, right? But 8% plus, and truly of our existing portfolios, like around 11%. So, $1 million at 11% is quite a bit of money every year. You divide it by 12, and then that's what you're living off of per month. So maybe you've got 500 grand, right? And I can do the math real quick. I can pull up my computer's calculator. If you've got 500 grand and you're living off about 11%, that's 56 grand ish a year, about 4,700 a month. That's a lot better than selling your principal and then hoping the market performs. A lot better. So if you would help me spread the word and help more people and put the word out that there's a better way than the gradual sell off of your portfolio and hoping on things, then please do. Help me beat YouTube, help me hack YouTube and get this message out to more people. Closed-end funds are so much better than the traditional investment advice. So what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, really last couple of months, is kind of going through current stories and then how that relates to the stock market. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it in a little bit different format. And this idea occurred to me the other day. So first day of summer, we're at somebody's pool party. Um, my girls let me get way more burned than I needed to be, which I am still feeling right now. Just doesn't seem like it because I'm not having to move much. Um, but floating in somebody's pool, trying to figure out how to put all this info together and really how to filter it and assimilate it and make it make sense. This analogy came to me. Have you ever read? I mean, the books are so much better than the movies, but have you ever read the Harry Potter series? Or have you seen the movies? And have you seen the scene where Professor Trelawney talks about tea leaves with Harry and Ron? And there's a process if you will say in Professor Trelawney's somewhat line of work, it matters how you go through the process of swirling out the like drinking the tea and swirling the dregs, and you see all these images at the bottom of the cup. That in and of itself is not my point, but it's a perfect analogy in ways for how we're interpreting the stock market. So as you drink the tea and you're left with the dregs, or I mean, if you forget the filter in your coffee, you're left with the grounds at the bottom, right? The pieces of the tea at the bottom of the cup are important. They're important for us because if we can consider everything that's going on in the market and consider all of that a piece of tea or maybe a coffee ground, then that shapes your view on the market. You can pick them out individually or you can try to see the whole picture. But it's not just the dregs themselves that matter. It matters who the interpreter is. Because if you asked Harry's classmates, his classmates all something different, right? And Professor Trelawney freaked out because if you haven't read the books or watched the movies, and I'm not giving away anything crazy by saying this, Professor Trelawney likes hype. And I mean, she's always predicting somebody's death. So everything she looks at, she's kind of looking at it from the worst case scenario in the sense of sensationalism. How big of a spectacle can I make it? But if you compare it to somebody else in Harry's class, where the dregs look like a sheep, or the dregs look like this, or the dregs look like that, whoever's interpreting the cup matters. The image matters, but it also depends upon whoever's reading the cup or whoever's looking at the image to get good advice about what the image actually is. And then you end up with an interpretation of the image. So in Harry Potter, what I could tell you, but I don't want to reveal that plot point. We end up with an image that Professor Trelawney freaks out on, and she's kind of right, but at the same time, she's completely wrong because she looks at it through tinted lenses. And that's not to say, I mean, Professor Trelawney wears giant glasses that make her look like trying to think of the word. Praying mantis would probably be a good word. And how she, uh, not that she, like kills her mate, not that, but it just in how large her glasses appear on her head. Uh, But it's like if she just removed, I mean, with all of those lenses, you would figure she could see, but it's almost like she's got blinders on and just can't see the real image because she's so blinded by, um, and I cannot think of the term, um, blinded by self. I'll just say that. So let's look at everything that's happening in the market and let's swirl the dregs and let's take a look and see what's there. And like everything, I've gotten everything from someone, but at the same time, I've filtered all of that stuff out for the most part. Uh, and I'm not going to tell you if it was ABC or CNN or this or that, but this is what is currently floating around at the bottom of the cup. So Moody downgraded the U.S. credit rating, which makes sense because we're $32 trillion and more in massive debt, right? But overall, that's not a big deal because it's not like it's a surprise. It's not like we went on a spending spree in the last 6 months and blew $30 trillion. But it does highlight an ongoing concern that we'll kind of get into as we go through the list. So the people that I read and trust are saying two different things. They're talking one thing and then they're saying like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. It's uh, in multiple articles they're saying one, President Trump and Secretary Bessent are purposefully lowering inflation and influencing the Fed. So the Fed then lowers rates. They're also saying that the overall value of the dollar is going down. And that's the reason that gold is going up and the dollar is going down because of all this inflation. But inflation data is down. So this group is reporting that Trump's spending plans are inflationary. And I like the group, but that logic doesn't hold water. And I don't know why gold continues to go up. My guess is there's too much. Well, there's so much going on. It's really hard to filter it all out, which is why I like this list. But there's so much going on, everybody's words just kind of get muddied and confusing. But my guess to why gold continues to go up is the Fed's ongoing supposed doubts and hesitation mixed up with the lying media's efforts to downplay the wins for the American people. Because, man, the media hates Trump. And to be honest, Powell and the Fed are not Trump fans either. So, as for President Trump being the reason that gold is going up, it doesn't make sense in light of everything else. President Trump and Secretary Bessent are backdooring the Fed, quite honestly, um, which I'll get into in a little. And I've said it before, but I'll reset again here a little bit. But we also have Trump and his cabinet pushing to lower inflation by cutting spending across the board. Right? They're pushing Doge nationally and locally. We have some states that are currently taking up the call to Doge or audit their state and local budgets. That's needed. Widespread excessive cutting or widespread excess cutting, right, or a massive decrease in government spending will continue to lower inflation. Inflation is two parts. It's one, the Fed printing money that automatically devalues currency. It's also the spending. We have wildfire spending across the government and not spending like you and I would spend money. It's like our budget's on steroids, um, or like a giant pack of steroids, right? Like if you took your budget and multiplied it in trillions, that's the U.S. government, right? Or a small country's government. But our government is spending so much money, they just don't realize how much money they're spending, and they're spending it so fast, and the Fed is printing money so fast, and inflation went up. Go figure that when we cut spending and the Fed stopped printing money, oh my gosh, inflation went down. It's so unbelievable. And the Fed didn't have a fucking thing to do with it outside of turning off the printer. So we get real. I have a list, but I will confess to being off course at times. So if you recall, President Trump tasked Doge to trim 2 trillion off off of expenditures super fast. Reason being is that Congress has overspent the budget by $2 trillion. So if Doge trims 2 trillion and everything else stays the same, then Congress actually has a balanced budget and nobody did any work to actually balance the budget. That would be huge because we're not adding another 2 trillion to our already massive 32 trillion in debt. But in order to make the Doge cuts legal, you have to get Congress involved. And Congress is, and this is both, I don't care what party you're a part of, Congress has to codify the cuts, meaning they have to make them law and legal, and they didn't do it. And that speaks volumes. And I'll get into that as well. So even without the current permanence of the Doge cuts, USAID has been decreased by 78%. Okay, that's a win. We've also closed some empty government buildings. We're decreasing our expenditures. They found government employees on assistance programs, so a full-time employee also getting government benefits. And then we're eschewing or ousting illegals in the millions from all over the country, and they belong all over the world except in our country. And all of that sustenance, right? All of the maintenance of having extra millions of people here takes money out of our pockets, and it makes the cost of everything else go up. So we're decreasing prices across the board. And now we also have President Trump going on his Middle East. It was a Middle East trip, but it was really a like wealth generation trip to a degree. In the course of a week, he got 3.2 trillion invested into the U.S. That's a lot of money. So you have Doge cutting money, Congress not making it legal, and then President Trump getting another 3.2 trillion investment into the U.S. Part to offset that 2 trillion in overspending, right? Part also to just address the overall debt. Now, normally Congress would address the debt. They should, but everybody kicks that can down the road for somebody else to deal with. Nobody wants to deal with it, right? Congress is supposed to be the pocketbooks in the sense of they're spending money and everything is accounted for. But as you've likely seen, they don't understand a lack of money because they just steal it from somewhere else. They hope the Fed prints more money, and then Congress looks for another purse to rob. And you can look back at our budgets, the Medicare budget, the Social Security budget, the USAID budget, the Ukraine money, and honestly, the list is endless. Wherever they can pilfer money, they're going to take it. Congress, in the Congress as a whole, House and Senate, the House supposedly controls the money. But the reality is that the US Congress can't be trusted with money. So if President Trump wanted to deal with the deficit, the overall debt, and the existing 2 trillion overspending for the year, could he really get around that? He actually can. So Doge works by pointing out overspending. And then all of these different department heads cut money because they all want to cut money. Congress won't make them legal, but all of these departments are just not going to spend the money. But there's also another way. So that impacts the day-to-day, but the long-term deficit, the 32 trillion that is really just crushing us. If Congress is responsible for paying it back, you and I both know that's not going to happen. So if our nation's debt is owned by foreign countries, and it is, so if our nation's debt is owned by foreign countries, that would make the debt a national security issue. And the president controls overall policy and all matters of national security. From that perspective, President Trump could pay down the debt with tariff money, like he said, and Congress wouldn't be able to do a dicky bird about it. Now, President Trump has said from the get-go, we should use tariffs to pay down the debt. He's created the External Revenue Service where all the tariff money would go, and that goes around Congress. If it goes through Congress, we'll never see that money, one, and two, the debt will never get paid off. Right? But if we could use that to pay down the debt, then less of the debt money, like how you do credit card payments. Your credit card payment comes out of your budget. The more you pay down, the less you have to pay out, in the sense of the more credit card debt you pay off, your payments decrease. So the less that impacts your monthly budget, the further along you go. The same is true with tariffs. So if we're taking tariff money to pay off our debt, right, that deficit money comes out of the operating budget. So if there's not as much deficit or there's not as much total debt, then it's requiring less money out of the budget to use. And then the debate becomes what to use the extra money for. Well, the first things first, pay off the debt, then we deal with the rest. But know that if Congress has a say in what happens, which they do, because supposedly they represent us, it's really hard to convince Congress not to just spend the money. So in all of this, you have to remember the aforementioned tidbits. Like everything I've said about President Trump and his America First trip to the Middle East, the ideas of using tariff money to pay off the debt, that debt is a national security issue, and to take, which sounds bad, but it's to take Congress, to remove Congress's hands from touching the money, because they're really great at spending. They suck at saving. They suck at fixing. Right? So you have to remember that, because almost no one in the media talks about it. And when you don't hear about it all the time, it's easy to forget. So why do you think the news repeats all the stories that don't matter? They want you distracted and angry at the wrong people. If you're not mad at Congress for overspending, you're mad at a lot of other people that don't really matter. They would much rather have us at our throats, right, than working together to solve our problems. And that shoddy news reporting includes stories about honestly everything, including this statement. They're reporting and hyping stagflation amidst decreasing inflation. That logic doesn't even make sense. I mean, inflation's down. Why even say it's stagflation? But here's where you got to remember the Fed. The Fed isn't cutting rates, but that doesn't mean it's stagflation. That just means the Fed isn't doing its job as inflation falls. And inflation data is down. Steve Bessent got the Fed to stop printing money. And without the constant printing press propping up the US economy and world economies, the US GDP dropped less than 0.5% since January. And every other country is scrambling to restructure because they're not raking off US tariffs or US incentive programs anymore. The media portrayed the US tariffing other countries as evil, but they're quite happy when other countries tariff US goods. You can't have it both ways. You can if you're in the herd because you don't know any better. You and I know better. So the Fed stopped printing money. Inflation went down. Kind of crazy. Okay. President Trump introduced reciprocal tariffs and did what no other politician was willing to do, actually try to help the United States. Right? Tariffs bring people to the table to get a better deal for us, for Americans and America, for us. The experts were all wrong. So I'm honestly sick of hearing the word expert on the news. I don't watch a lot of news. I watch I watch independent journalists on Telegram, and they watch a lot of news. And if I want the original story, they post the entire original story. But I don't watch the news anymore. If you pick your news station, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox, everybody has an expert on everything. And if they are experts on everything, are they really experts on anything? All the experts were wrong about tariffs. So can we agree that they know next to nothing? It certainly seems that way. The US, through President Trump, played the tariff game and we won. And like I've been saying, tariffs are not inflationary. They simply bring people to the table. And even the Lion legacy media finally admitted that. If we could just get the Fed to admit the same and lower rates. Now, the Fed, on their part, the Federal Reserve is trying to keep control. And by trying to keep their control, they're also exposing their duplicity. Their job, their mandate, is to control rates and to control inflation. But they haven't done that. President Trump and Secretary Bessent did it for them. And I'll keep reiterating this, that President Trump and Bessent are attempting to backdoor the Fed into lowering rates by controlling the 10-year Treasury rate, or the long-term rate. How would they go about that? Well, you get lower inflation. So stop the Fed printing money. Check that box. Stop Congress spending money. Check that box. Stop funding the world. Check that box. And oh my gosh, inflation dropped and the Fed didn't respond. They kept rates high because they are uncertain about how everything will go. Fine. We'll focus on deregulation. Cut costs and take the government out of people's lives. Decrease the cost of doing business. Drill more oil. Make the cost of everything go down. Our lives are surrounded by oil and natural gas much more than people realize. If you want a functioning hospital, you need oil. If you want a pacemaker, you need oil. If you want paint or lacquer or paint thinner or a fridge or a computer or a mouse, you need oil, right? Drill more oil and the cost of everything goes down. That helps everybody. And oh my gosh, inflation dropped and the Fed did nothing. So why wait? Like, what's the game? The Fed waits in all of their uncertainty because they're not in control and they don't like it. The Fed likes to dominate the narrative and they're being forced to be reactionary, which is what the Fed was set up to do. Now, the Fed was set up to control. We can get into the history of the Federal Reserve and why I think it should go away and why a lot of other people think it should go away. But that's not this video. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be reactionary based on the data. Like, here's all the data and this is our response. That's their job. That's their mandate. And they threw that out the window because the data says inflation's going down. Scientific research has said tariffs don't increase inflation. And the Fed said, we just don't know. It's so uncertain. Bullshit. I mean, I don't even remember how old she was. My elementary age, like maybe fifth grade daughter, understood supply and demand better than Jerome Powell said he understood supply and demand on TV. He said, I don't understand how we ended up with inflation because he was scared to admit the truth that the Federal Reserve caused inflation. The Fed printed 40% of currency in a very short amount of time. You printed so much paper that you devalued all other paper in existence, supply and demand. You inflated the total number of dollars in the market and thereby reduced the value of all other dollars in the market. Right? So if the Fed doesn't understand supply and demand, why are they in charge of responding to supply and demand? Right? The Fed likes power and they're dispensing their message through their corrupt media partners and hoping the masses, the sheep, just swallow everything they say. It doesn't help us, but it's the game we play. There's no way to fix the herd. We can educate more, but we're not going to get rid of that bulk investor group that just does whatever the TV tells them to. My goal is to help everybody. My goal is to, it sounds like the Matrix, to free people from the traditional investment advice. Right? There is a better way, but some people are okay with just swallowing everything on TV. I don't know if it makes them sheep or a toilet. Um, but I guess I'll attempt to revert back and say the Fed has chosen to wait. And all of this uncertainty, they've chosen to wait, but they can't wait much longer. They're going to have to cut rates, and they're going to have to lose some power in the process. Now, if they don't cut rates, I think we see a push to oust Jerome Powell a lot faster. And if they do cut rates, I think Powell keeps his job until his term expires in 2026. But if he doesn't last, Trump will appoint someone who will be qualified, but also someone who will cut rates. And the experts will weigh in with all the commentary, but the rate cut will be huge. And it's important that rates drop. It's important for you and me. I mean, the Fed's rate impacts everything outside of the long-term rate, but even the long-term rate it impacts as well. Okay, but the rate drop is huge. The Fed is supposed to read the data and respond. They've been behind the curve the entire time, right? Or behind the response time the entire time. They jacked rates too fast. They've lowered them too slow. It makes zero sense until you step back and realize that it's all about control. It's all about their control. It's not about you and me or even the country. It's about the Fed and their power and their control, which means they hate anyone who would challenge that control, like President Trump or Scott Bessent. Now we need the rate cut. The housing market needs a rate cut. I mean, God, like with inflation down, that impacts everything with owning a house. That impacts insurance and property taxes, supposedly, and just the cost of owning a house. But the housing market itself has finally increased its volume in the sense that people have realized the Fed's not going to cut rates and they're finally selling. So we've seen increased volume, but we have not seen increased buying. And if I go outside my neighborhood, I mean, there's more homes for sale in my neighborhood. There's also more homes for sale around my neighborhood than there have been the last 2 to 3 months. But they're also just sitting there. More people have realized they have to move. Now, on the flip side, more people are, despite those homes being on the market, more people aren't buying because they don't want to pay a 7% rate, right? And a rate cut before the summer would have been monumental. There's a big difference between 6.5% and 7%. When you can buy your loan down an extra percent. So if the national rate dropped from 7 to 6.5 and you bought your rate down another 1%, you'd be paying 5.5 versus 7. That's a huge thing. Would have been a power move, but the Fed held off. Why? Like that would look like they're controlling the cycle. But that it would look like, oh my gosh, like here's the data, we're responding to it, we're going to act. And they didn't. Why? Well, we're back to leverage and the power struggle. The Treasury Department, Scott Bessent, needs to refinance almost 9 trillion in debt. Who wants to refinance 9 trillion at 7%? Anybody? The Fed knows that. So they're holding the card on dropping rates because it's impacting the Treasury. And now you've got Doge cutting money, all these other, like all these departments cutting money. You've got President Trump going out and raising money to insert back into the US. And we're trying to decrease inflation as fast as possible and force the Fed into relenting to drop rates so the Treasury Department can refinance $9 trillion. But the Fed won't do it. But again, they don't care about the country. They care about their power and their control. Which I mean, honestly, I could talk for a while on this, but I don't want to. I don't want to be. It's not quite a dead horse, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. So the newest particle in the teacup is the U.S. House by a vote. The U.S. House passed that big, beautiful bill. There's a lot in there. Me personally, I have advocated for, I mean, 5-page bills with easily explained data, one topic at a time. right? List every law that it, like, if you're going to introduce a bill, it should be not in legalese to where an 18-year-old graduating newbie adult could understand the language, where it references every law it impacts. If we're duplicating laws, how about we just enforce the current laws? And if we're crossing out laws, then crossing out laws, there we go, not outlaws, one word, then it should be explicit in the bill of what's being done away with and what's replacing it. Like, why is it better? But really, single topic, 5-page bills. And look, if you want to pass 100 different bills at the same time, but they all stay original, I could go with that because it's individual topics per bill. The big, beautiful bill is 1,000 pages. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I like some of it, but I definitely don't like all of it. And honestly, that's the biggest lesson for politics. You're never going to get everything you want. But I do know this: the Republican Party across every level of government has way too many non-Republicans hiding underneath our umbrella. And normally I wouldn't talk about this at all. I mean, I would not talk politics on a finance video, but politics and political powers impact our finances. So I'll attempt to keep it short and on topic, and I will attempt to follow my list and not go off topic. So, in super simple terms, here's the breakdown for political parties. Democrats want a super big government. That means more spending and more taxes because someone's got to pay for all of that extra. And all that extra is coming from your pocket. Republicans want a very limited government. That means more in your pocket and less taxes because the government's not huge. And here's how that works in zoological terms. The DNC, Democrat National Committee, the DNC party, their mascot is the donkey. The RNC mascot, or the GOP, the Grand Old Party mascot, is the elephant. All these saboteurs and sandbaggers, those are rhinos, Republican in name only. People who hide out underneath the umbrella to get a vote and at the same time don't believe anything about the party. The independents, the Tea Partiers, the Greenleaf Party, the Libertarians have no mascot. It's a hodgepodge of people who like their independence. And if they were being super honest, they like the idea of a smaller government and less taxes, but they don't want to be Republicans because they only think of rhinos and the fact that a few want a truly balanced budget. Now, a truly balanced budget would mean it's a line item budget in the sense of you start with a number, and balanced in the sense of when you get to the end, it's a zero balance budget. Everything has a designation. Every department has a budget, and there's no way to go over. You're paying off your debt, you're reinforcing your emergency fund, and nobody in their fucking right mind would touch the emergency fund unless it's a dire emergency. But everything has a purpose. Everything has a place. Every single thing is accounted for, even the dollars and cents down to the last penny on interest. And at the very end, it's a zero balance budget. So if you end up with a surplus, then more money gets paid off to the debt, right? And the priority is the debt, so that when the debt is canceled, you have more money in your budget and you're not taxing everybody else as much. That's what the libertarian group has hoped for, which is what President Trump has been pushing for a long time. Trump is a former Democrat, as is Tulsi Gabbard, as is RFK Jr. Okay. Donald Trump is a lion. He's in the Republican Party because, I mean, that's real. You could, the the Democrat Party is an exclusive group in the sense that if you run against the narrative, you're out. If you break free, if you don't drink the Kool-Aid, you're not on that group anymore. So Donald Trump joined the Republican Party because, quite honestly, it was common sense. You could join the libertarian group and the smaller groups, the independent groups, You're not going to pull enough weight in order to change an election. So he joined the Republican Party, and now he's a converted Democrat who's got libertarian tendency and even nationalist tendency. He loves the United States. Nationalism is not an issue. I mean, every American should be a nationalist. Every American should love this country, right? And if you hate the country, why are you here? So Trump exists as a man apart, except he also belongs to the Republican Party. The herd are the sheep. And we see that in finance, we see that in politics, we see that in life. And the choice is this: you can be a sheep, you can be a lion, you can be a rhino, an elephant, or a jackass. It's completely up to you. Me, I don't want to be a sheep or a rhino or a jackass. I prefer a lion because some of the elephants don't have the memory they should. Okay. Now, your political affiliation is completely up to you. Which would you rather be? Okay. And then you got to figure out how you want to be in the finance world. And the two, I mean, in theory, you could be one and the other politically and financially and independently, like in your personal life, but it's really all the same. I don't want to be on the herd. I don't want to be a rhino who is a label in name only, right? I want a small government. I want more money in my pocket because that allows me to invest more or save more or do more with. And it's completely up to me, and the government doesn't have a fucking say in that. So sure, I'm a lion. Currently, I exist in the Republican Party. I'm a conservative at heart. Um, I'm in the Republican Party, but also, and I'm Republican in the sense of I want a smaller, limited government. But I'm a conservative. I want a super small government. I want huge individual freedom. I want huge individual liberty. I want less taxation across the board. I don't care what tax bracket you fall into, it should be less. Quite honestly, this is off my list, which may or may not get me into trouble. But regardless, if God's requirement of me is 10% and the government's is more, that's an issue because the government is attempting to supplant God in the sense that they're demanding more money from me than God. Right? At most, the government should tax me 10%, but they would still be on an equal plane of God. And that's the deal with a bigger government. A bigger government seeks to supplant God from your life in the sense that everything the government does is now helping you and taking care of you. I don't want that. I want to take care of me. Right. So for me, it's God gets 10%. The government should get about 5%, if anything. Right. The government didn't used to be run on tax money. It used to be run on tariff money. So if the government was fully funded from tariff money, you and I wouldn't pay taxes at all. Think of that. Think what that would mean for your budget. Think what that would mean for your investments and your retirements and every little sub budget thing you wanted, right? Whatever your tax bracket is, you would have that money back because you wouldn't be paying it in taxes. That would be huge. And that is completely against what Congress wants because they want to fund their pet projects and line their own pockets. So, getting back, in a Republican Congress, across any level of government, right? But really in the US government. So, in a Republican dominated Congress, House, Senate, President, why would we be spending more and more and more? Because there's too many rhinos in the elephant enclosure. And whether rhino or donkey, both want more money. So if you're in the herd, you're an easy sheep for slaughter. When you listen to the experts, you're pretty much Jack the Ripper in your own throat. in the market and anywhere else. So if we truly want to be different from the herd, we must rise above the herd. If you want to outperform the herd, we must be separate. We must think differently. We must walk a different path and be confident in that path. We don't follow the herd. We don't step in their shit, right? We observe the herd and pay attention to them off in their own pasture, but we don't do the same things. And I mean, I could say a lot more, but really the I guess the three things I'll leave you with about the herd is hunted, right? If you're in the herd, everybody's telling you to do something, right? And when everybody says the same thing, that's kind of like I pick my ears up. But when every single person says the same thing, the herd is being hunted and pushed a certain way. And the herd doesn't read the tea leaves. They think they do, but they're not the one reading the tea leaves because the media tells them what to do, right? The herd sees the pieces with expert influence, right? And back to my original analogy, the herd, Harry's class, sees the pieces or the image through expert or Professor Trelawney's influence. So once the image is planted, the herd goes, oh, yeah, I see that. But that's not you and me, right? If we look at the pieces of, if we looked at the pieces at random, right? If we looked at all of them, like I'm looking at this point and this point and this point and this point, it looks like hectic randomness. But if we swirl the dregs and we intentionally look for images, right? Really what the media does, then you see what you want to see or you see what you're told. Right? If we're intentionally looking for an image, you can see anything. It's like looking for images in the clouds. Right? But still, that's not us. We're not the herd. And we're definitely not the media experts who are experts on nothing. You and I are better. We are a cut above. So we don't look for what we want to see. We look for reality and do so almost with indifference. Like it matters. It matters so much because it sets up our strategy. It sets up us to do well, but we have to take all that emotion out. And you have to look at the pieces with indifference, right? Take all emotion out of it and look for the truth. So if we swirl the dregs and we really hold the cup away from, right, and we assemble all the pieces and we take a step back, what do we see? And here's what I see in our cup. The foolish bond market sell-off after the House passed that one big beautiful bill still points to this being a great time to scoop bonds and bond proxies. Like it is a great time. The bond market freaked, quite honestly, because it's the herd. I mean, the herd swings the market. You and I, we have strategy, we have reason, we have logic. We're not swayed by big events. So every giant swing, greed or fear, that's the herd. And it was a foolish bond market sell-off. It was foolish because not important. So it's a great time to scoop bond and bond proxies based on sell-off. It's also just a great time to invest there. But that said, I'm also willing to look into tech-based stocks because, honestly, I follow. If you're familiar with me, you know that I track it. I track a lot of different things. I keep tabs on a lot of different things. But my favorite tech stock is still down 5% from its highest point. I'm optimistic it'll climb back and then surpass that. And I say that because Microsoft, it it's been a fight for the top dog. Like we've seen Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft all contending. Currently, Microsoft just bumped Apple out of the largest company spot. And we have Nvidia about to release their next quarterly update. And you know this as well as I do. The AI battle is not over. And AI integration is not over. And AI is only good as what it's programmed to be. There was I forget where, there was a story that said somebody ran what was it? Somebody ran a scenario through their AI about like a corporate takeover, and it produced this giant thing. And at the very bottom, it would be like, and we would smear the other company to say the other company executive had an affair, and then thereby take more. It's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, someone somewhere is programming this into AI. It's only as good as what it is programmed to be, which makes me super scary about Tesla's robot service. Makes me super scary, super apprehensive about buying a self-driving car. And I saw that Netflix trailer about every self-driving car that just like stopped and crashed and essentially turned on its owners. It wouldn't go anywhere. It There's the kill switch law that's coming out. Should be, I want to say it's due out in 2026, where every current car has to have a kill switch that's governed by someone in some app center, some data center, where anybody can kill your car for any known reason. And the justification was, oh, we wanted to do it for drunk drivers. But why are drunk drivers driving a car? All of that AI integration stuff is concerning. But at the same time, it can be beneficial, right? And knowing how to use it takes rational, logical people. And not everybody is rational or logical. And as much as we all want to improve our lives, we also understand that not everything is going to improve our lives. But that whole AI transition has just started. And say last before the list, it's we have everything happening at once. Like there's so much more out there than what I could have put in the list. And but there's so much happening, it really is hard to gather it all and assimilate it all. So we have widespread big, medium, and little events. But even with everything happening all over the place, I don't think the market turbulence will last. I think the US economy is about to break open, and that would do wonders across the board. I think the Fed is going to have to cut rates. I think we're going to see so much onboarded US manufacturers, so much onboarded US investment, so much internal growth. It's going to be crazy. And you factor in the AI revolution, which you can say good for and bad for. But you have the AI revolution on top of that. And I think the US economy is going to explode in a good way. There's a ton of hope right now, despite everybody else trying to stomp on it and slap it with a shovel. And it's just the truth of it. All right. So for this week, I mean, I get that it's a longer weekend and a short week, but there's a lot going on. And quite honestly, it feels like a good time to invest. And I would, me and our system of what I'll show, it's whatever the list is whatever the list is. But what I would target out of that list: bonds, bond proxies, utility companies, real estate. Uh, I'll make a case for a brand new CLO fund. Even though I can't convince myself to do it, I'll make a case for it. Municipal bonds, and then my favorite tech fund, right? Like, so of what's on the list: bonds, bond proxies, energy transfer, utilities, and tech. So let's take a gander at the list. And people have asked, um, how would I go about sharing this list? Like how could they get access to the list? And to be honest, that has been my goal. Um, on the YouTube end of things, unless somebody responds to the video and tells me otherwise, I don't think I can create a membership until I have enough followers and enough content viewed. Um, so until I meet the metrics for that, I don't think I can create a membership with special access to this list. So since it's summer for teachers, I am finally doing some strategic planning and thinking and figuring out the best way to get y'all the information that you asked for. And if I can do that on Facebook, if I can do that on YouTube, great. But I think my backup plan is Facebook. So this is the list. I update everything with a single asterisk or greater every week. I do a full list update every month. So everything from single asterisk and above got updated today. And what I took into this um, smaller list is everything from two asterisks and above. Now, how it works. Just a quick review. This is the group I follow. It's the only service I pay for. And I pay for their basic membership. The other stuff just doesn't, it's interesting, but it's not beneficial for me. So everything with a single asterisk is tracked for any number of reasons. Two asterisks is a dollar cost average alert based on what we already own. And three asterisks is a buy alert, and it's based upon the discount of the data from each individual company. So this company doesn't relate to this company discount doesn't relate to this company discount. It's related to the individual company's discount history outside of the ones that we already own. So here's that list shortened. So we have three municipal bond funds that we own that are currently below what our average price. And honestly, this one was above 12. So I mean, 28 cents less doesn't seem like a lot, but I think it was up. I want to say it was up above 12.25. But either way, at current price, it is a bargain. So after and how I sort this list, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. So these are the focus groups, or these are the targets of what we're going to look at once we thin the list. Everything has a significant discount outside of the stuff that's just a great buy based on dollar cost average principles. I like to sort based on monthly status. There's one fund that's interesting, ADX, that's a quarterly payer, that's an off quarterly payer. It's kind of a alternating category two. And then it pays the second month of every quarter outside the last month, which they pay in December. So it's like 25812. Uh, it's a blue chip powerhouse. It's got an amazing track record. It's loaded with fun stuff. And as tempting as it is, it's not truly tempting until its existing discount at least meets or exceeds its 1 year average discount. Uh, but it's really the only quarterly fund I'm interested in. I mean, the Gabelli fund we just got rid of. It's a great fund, but and it pays a fat dividend. It does. Uh, but I've gotten to where I really like monthly income because it's consistent. Because if you're retiring on dividends, you want consistent monthly incomes. You don't want to wait for the majority of your portfolio to pay every quarter if you're having to live every month. So we're left with this list of all monthly payers. Then I like to sort by overall yield. So I want 9% or better. Now, these three municipal bonds, they pay tax equivalent dividends, or they're non-tax to a degree. So, or tax-free, I guess you could say. So the posted dividends are all in the eights, but the tax-free dividend rate, I updated these today, are all over 10%. So we want 9% or better, but these three are going to stay because of that tax-free basis. And honestly, these are municipal bonds too. I did not update their tax-free status or their tax-free equivalent dividend. But we already own municipal bond funds. We're not going to add any more. So we end up with portfolio in a can, portfolio in a can. The ETV section is interesting because they sell covered call options. They sell call options or covered calls on their portfolio. So they help supplement their dividends with the calls. But at the same time, I mean, outside of a few tech things, I mean, everything is tech. Even tech has its own category. But honestly, any company worth their salt is integrating more tech. So almost everything is tech. Um, but still, some of the funds inside, um, think of how to explain this. I'm interested in technology outright and companies that would profit a lot from technology, really, which should be everybody. But I'm also not quite, I'm not a portfolio fan kind of guy. Like the more diversified every portfolio is, doesn't endear me to buy that portfolio. It's not like, oh, look, they're so diversified. I want somebody who's going to invest targetedly, someone who knows what they're doing and is so confident that they're investing in stuff that they want to invest in that they don't feel the need to invest in everything else. HFRO's real estate. This is my favorite tech fund. We have it inside our Roth. I have not added it to our Fidelity account because it just hasn't been the time. It's been bond proxy focus for so long, but I finally feel like we're in that middle ground where you can make an argument and a successful argument for investing in stocks and specifically tech-based stocks. Um, but everything else is just not on my window. CIF we own in the Roth. It was a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster ride. We bought it knowing it would be a roller coaster ride, but I'm not a fan of that. I mean, we started with a couple like CTR as a roller coaster ride, um, but having ridden the roller coaster a couple of times, it's not my favorite gig. FCO is the super big bond fund with the private lender status or private lender availability. HGLB I like. It used to be bonds, and then they were heavy weighted through these categories, but they've started to turn into more portfolio in a can, and the fund has done well. I mean, it's gained in its their discount has closed a little bit. Their price has gone up. We want that to happen, but it it goes against me. I don't know. It goes against my personal strategy in the sense I don't want diversity for diversity's sake. Like, don't just fill in these other categories because you think you need to put them in. Like, invest where you need to invest. Um, yeah, you can read this. I don't need to read this to you. But we already invest in bond funds. It's hard to invest in something that we're already invested in. Um, like, it doesn't add to our. Uh, let's see. If I bought a new fund, I would want to buy a fund that is different than our other funds and gives us a different angle than our current funds. So buying this doesn't really do that. BRW is, I mean, it's bonds, it's closed end fund. Yeah, you can read this. But that whole value of gold angle, I read an article, and I won't tell you who, but I read an article saying we should look at closed end funds, particularly this specific gold closed end fund. And it is specific and not diversified, and it is a specific investment into gold. But honestly, I mean, we already own BRW, but I can buy more BRW who is invested in gold, but they're also invested in precious minerals and crypto and this and that and the other. And it's an activist bond fund, like a shareholder activist bond fund. I like that, um, which is more of a long term thing than buying into the gold hype. And gold's already selling high. So buying into something brand new when gold is already crazy high isn't really getting you a crazy discount. Hicks is great, but it doesn't beat the benchmark. And then Earn is brand new. I mean, the CF Connect has it for just the last 2 months, and it's brand. I didn't find it last month, but maybe it came out after I did the update. And then I looked for it online, thinking maybe I would find more data online, and maybe it came out 4 to 5 months ago. Maybe it was under a different name, and they switched it into a new fund. And so, however you want to say, it's still a super new collateralized loan obligation fund, which is kind of, I mean, CLOs are kind of like bonds. It's just a really specific high need bond type of activity. But at the same time, No, so at the same time, it's super new. In the closed-end fund section of the market, you have investors who are, for the most part, incredibly patient and they want intel. So when something's brand new, they hesitate. And when you look at technology, there's a pendulum curve, there's a bell curve associated with technology that technology companies know about. If you look at the bell curve, which is the 80% group, right? And then you factor in 10% on either edge. Whatever technology you come out with, 10% of people are going to buy it regardless because they want the brand new product. 10% of people are going to avoid it unless they have to implement it, of which case everybody else will have it before they do. So technology companies appeal to the 80% because the 10% at the front are going to buy it regardless, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But if you can get the 80% to sign on, eventually you'll collect the other 10%. And closed end fund investors have the same mentality, except that 10% group that's going to buy in regardless, it doesn't exist. It's it's more skewed like, and I don't even have the stats, but as a group, there's much more, there's a much greater number of people at the back end. Instead of 10%, it's more 40, 50, 60% of people. I don't know. But there's a lot more people that want all the data and some history before they buy a new fund. So for a brand new CLO fund, now there are no other CLOs on the list. Supposedly, a softer labor market, more unemployment, hampers closed in fund or not closed in funds, hampers CLO pricing. I mean, I would love to own more of OXLC. It just doesn't meet the metric to be on the list for the week. There are other closed-end funds that are tempting, but they're in premium right now. So to have a brand new CLO fund that's selling at a discount, probably because everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's brand new, I don't want to buy it in the closed-end fund market space, is tempting because it's brand new and it's cheap and it's on discount and it pays a great yield. The problem is there's only 2 months of dividend history. Yes, it pays amazing dividend. There's maybe 5 to 6 months of pricing. It's currently about $1.50 less than what it started out at, of what I can see for the last year. Um, so, I mean, yeah, it's gone down, but yeah, I guess you could make the case for all CLO funds that it's hard to see that price increase in a softer labor market, I guess. But because it's so new, even though it pays a high dividend and it has a decent discount for a brand new fund, it's so new, it's hard to get people on board to buy it, especially for closed-end fund investors. Now, I'm a little more willing to consider it. I mean, it made this list, right? I didn't just nix it out because it's brand new, but I don't know if I can convince myself to buy it. I'm all for chances, but I don't like just, I mean, I don't like, I mean, see how to say this. The entire market investing is a gamble. Now you can turn it in your favor by by seeing a bigger picture, right? By swirling the drags, trying to interpret and trying to project. You can make it more advantageous, but it's still a gamble. And when something's brand new and you have no history, no info. I mean, I went to Morningstar. It didn't say anything about CLOs. It said everything about bonds, government bonds and derivatives and corporate bond. That's tempting in the current market space. I think it has more government bonds associated with it than Saba, which is Saba supposed to be a government bond company. So it's tempting, but I don't know if it's that tempting that I would buy it, and especially buy it in large quantity. Um, like it's tempting, but at the same time, I want to know more. So this would be my list. Um, and you can, I mean, you can read the descriptions of why. But with a bond dominated bond, like I still think it's foolish, but with a bond market sell off, so a general drop in pricing, but also to where we currently are in the existing economy, bonds and bond proxies, um, tech still seem like the best investments right now. So we have this fund, bonds, CF, that bonds, private lending, BDC, huge in Scott Bessen's economy, in Scott Bessen's tenure. Uh, all I'll expand this out. You can pause and read it. Um, but everything that's set to do extremely well in technology, I mean, you can pick up for cheap in this fund. We have real estate, um, commercial real estate, private, like a single family home. They're they own, either they own stock in or they're partnered with a company that takes single family homes and rents them out to people because the cost of housing is so great. We want, like, if you don't want an apartment, they're now building single family homes faster than apartment complexes to a degree, which sounds crazy. But you can rent a single family home for cheaper than you can rent an apartment in some places. Um, so they've got single family home rentals, single family home developments, hospital development, public storage development. So um, I still like this company. I mean, I get the hesitancy because it switched from like a bond hedge fund to a real estate hedge fund with no explanation. They still haven't explained why. I don't know if anybody has asked why, but they still haven't explained why. Um, but I see so much potential in this company. Um, yeah, I still think it's light at the end of the tunnel and not a freight train. And then on the municipal side of things, these are great municipal bond funds, all new Veen funds, all angled slightly differently, but all at great prices based on what we currently own. So if it's me investing on Tuesday, then these would be my targets. As to what I mean, we own all of them in one shape. So Roth fund versus a cash fund at Fidelity. Um, what the actual breakout would be, like how many shares we go for each, would really come down to how much I'm willing to invest in the market right now. My goal, uh, I want to say we've invested 4 times since we opened the Fidelity account. We transferred money out of Morgan Stanley, and our broker left us broker than him. He did not completely squander our wealth, but he didn't grow it either. But we've since taken management of that on ourselves, and we are now truly self-directing our investments. You could argue that you're self-directing your investment through a broker, but we're just doing it ourselves. Um, so we still have money to invest. Um, and quite honestly, we're teachers who have gained wealth through investment and through uh, death of family. And the goal is to not have your family die, but you also don't want to squander what you inherit. So we are trying to do the best we can with what we have been given uh, in what we've acquired through our lives, what we've been able to set aside, and also, to be honest, what you acquire through what you acquire through inheritance that you would rather not have to go through. Um, but we're trying to use it to, I mean, we're trying to use it towards our retirement. We're also trying to use it for other investments. So uh, I've said it before, we're teachers, so it's not like we're making a ton of money as teachers. Um, just so you know, I'm not, I want to be transparent. I want to be honest. I don't want to make it out anything different than what it is. Um, we love our jobs, but at the same time, we would both like to do something else than teaching until we retire. And this is one way we are working on that. So if I'm investing on Tuesday, and honestly, I think I am investing on Tuesday, I would be investing with these funds. Um, The final breakouts of which I can, I guess, review on the next video, but I don't know. I got to figure out how much we want to invest right now, and then I got to figure out the best breakout of that. So based on the funds, what the best number of shares in each, let's see. So if we go for, all right, fine, 10 grand, just to throw a number out. If we pick up 200 shares here, that's $2,600 now. So it's trying to figure out the best total shares that give us the overall, say, the best annual dividend, or however you want to say, monthly dividend. Um, yeah, I got to figure out the best way to do that. So that's probably, without wiffle waffling more on how that plays out. I mean, that's really what I got to work out between now and whenever we invest. So I hope you found the info helpful. I mean, honestly, I hope it helps you see that there's always more to be learned. Like when we look at these political events, or when we look at party decisions, or when we look at world events, all of this stuff is happening all the time. There's always way too much out there to really process and go through at once. But once you really make a list and start to correlate that to the stock market, and then start to see a bigger picture, it should help frame your existing strategy and how to project that strategy, or how to project where you think the market's going to go, and then how everything plays off each other. And I mean, this power struggle between President Trump, Scott Bessent, and the Fed is huge. Um, is huge. You have a lot of other factions. You have a lot of other events that relate to the U.S. overall debt. The Moody's downgrading of our credit, but you have this massive U.S. debt that we need to fix. The sooner the better. And you have all of these different things impacting that, and impacting you and I in the process, right? And all of that impacts the stock market. So it's how to figure out what the best possible thing to do is right now, in the mix of a bigger picture strategy. It's find the best deal in this market for the long term, right? And then when the market changes, and if it flips from a bond market into something else, like if it flips from bonds into stocks, I don't know. I mean, if the market turns, then we reevaluate the strategy and then go from there. But it's still picking the best overall deals in this market with a long-term game in mind. And it's working towards being able to supplement or live off dividends, and not amassing all this wealth knowing that you're going to have to sell it in reverse dollar cost averaging on the back end. Because yes, you could buy Nvidia now, it could go up $1,000, but now when it's at its highest, you have to sell it to fund your retirement. That doesn't sound fun. I mean, Bert, man, I've been working on the other request. People ask for an update on strategy. Like, how do I really go about thinking through everything? Which I've kind of gone through on this, I think, to a degree, but how I really process and go through everything when it comes to closed-end funds, and how did we get to investing in closed-end funds? Like, what really, like, how do you go from single stocks to closed-end funds? And as I was researching that, the current status, the current cost of a single share of Berkshire Hathaway A per share is $767,000. Think about that. Like, that's more money than most people will end up in the market. So the single cost, so you could buy it in the hopes that it will go up. But quite honestly, why buy that when I can buy a closed-end fund for cheaper at a discount that pays a fat dividend? Berkshire Hathaway pays no dividend. But I can buy a closed-end fund that owns Berkshire Hathaway and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple that really don't pay dividends, right? And I can get a really fat dividend, and get paid every month for owning the company like a reward, right? And I can figure out if I ever want to sell that closed-end fund. But I'm getting that I mean, gosh, for $767,000, you could buy so many closed-end funds that you could fund your retirement tomorrow, right? So you could buy Berkshire Hathaway for 767 and hope it goes up. But for that amount of money in the market at our current portfolio dividend rate, so our portfolio dividend rate at Fidelity is 11.21. So $767,000 times our portfolio yield is 80, almost $86,000 a year, which is about $7,000 a month. You could fund your retirement with one share or the value of one share of Berkshire Hathaway A. Or you could just put all that money into Berkshire Hathaway A, get no dividend for it, and hope it goes up. And at a time that's disadvantageous for you, you could sell that and then fund your retirement with that. That makes no sense to me at all. I mean, even if you invest in Apple. So if you buy Apple today, the advice is buy Apple today, it'll be worth 10% more in 5 years. Well, that's 2% growth. That's less than inflation. Even if the Fed says inflation is at zero, no way. It's at least 3 to 4% a year. So you're losing 1 to 2% of value every single year, right? So your Apple investment at the end of 5 years is now 10% higher. Well, even if inflation is still 2%, you're break even on overall cost. Your investment has been devalued, and you've really been paid nothing for it. Why not invest the same amount of money into a closed-end fund who owns Apple, Berkshire Hathaway, Amazon, Google, or Alphabet, all the stuff that pays 8% plus monthly. So I can buy it super cheap, collect a fat dividend, use the same money I was going to use to buy something else, just buy a lot more of one fund to get more dividend every month. So there is, I don't want to branch into a brand new topic. Closed-end funds give you so much better access than the traditional stock market advice. And I hope this video has shown that. And if I haven't, then please give me feedback. If I haven't shown you that closed-end funds give you a better deal than single stock investments, then please comment and tell me. And don't be an ass about it, but at the same time, tell me about it. Because that's the deal. I mean, it's just a much better investment. And it funds your retirement. You don't have to sell it. Like you can keep your principal and grow it and not have to sell your principal and hope you can make it. So if you like my content, please share it. And if you like my content, subscribe and like the videos. But help me get this message out to where we can help more people retire better than everybody else still following that traditional advice. So I guess last, if you like my content, consider subscribing. And then, yeah, it's helped me hack YouTube and get the message out, but it's really helped other people and help them have a better retirement. Or if they're using, like, I mean, I've read articles about how people are using the stock market to fund their existing budget, which is an interesting strategy. But if you're doing that, I mean, it's still the same thing. Help me get the word out to those people so they can better fund their existing lives with better dividends. And if you just want to chat closed-end funds or anything else, then drop me a comment on Pick a Video. So it's Memorial Day weekend, and it's a really big thing. I know it's an added day. I get that the market's closed tomorrow. And there's a lot of reference out there, but probably the best reference, if you search online and type in Memorial Day History Channel, the History Channel does really great stuff on national holidays. and they explain the purpose of national holidays really better than anybody else, which you would figure would be true for a history channel, but that's not always true. But look into Memorial Day and then reflect back on why we have a day off, and not a day off to barbecue or swim or get sunburned or anything else. Not that. But think of why we have a day off and remember to be thankful about who has died and sacrificed for our country. And then if you see a veteran, whether if you see a currently active serving or veteran of any branch of our military, whether day to day or on Memorial Day, thank your person. I mean, that the Vietnam guys and the World War II guys, they still wear their hats. The Korea War guys, they generally, like, if I see an old gentleman in a Vietnam vet hat or a World War II hat, or pick your battle hat, like pick your campaign hat, go by and say thank you and shake their hand. Whether you like war or hate war, or regardless of political party, regardless of anything, thank them for serving in a military that at its heart is still there to protect America from everything else. So have a great Sunday. Enjoy your Memorial Day, and yeah, good fortune in your investments. And please help me get the message out to help everybody else, and help everybody else have a better retirement than following the traditional advice and being in the herd. So have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye bye.